Guys, Sore Hands just called me out on his channel. I did not expect this guitar beef to literally take hold of the entire internet. In relation to Marcin and Ichikanito, Sore Hands just mentioned a couple of my videos, and I want to thank him very much for the shout out, as that is very much appreciated, and I have been a fan of his channel for a very long time. Truthfully, I had no clue that other people did rage bait content like myself until I saw his channel. And it was right at the time where I just started kind of doing rage baity titles, taking a little bit of a risk, and I was like, I wonder if anyone else is doing content like this. I feel like I'm the only one where I just do the titles crazy. And then one day I stumbled upon Sore Hands and I was like, wow, there's another guy doing the same thing as me. I think I will take this as inspiration and a nod to keep doing what I'm doing.
Gotta look up Marcin fake. This guy right here, look at that mug. Eerily similar to mine. It's just a personality type for people that look like us. I've watched this video and a couple other of his videos, and they're actually pretty nice, so if you want to check them out, I think you should.
So thank you, Sore Hands, for inspiring all of us fellow creators here, especially myself, in creating rage bait content like you. So there's a couple things that Sore Hands mentioned in his latest video that I think would be good to talk about. And obviously we come from two different fabrics, but yet we also come from the same fabric. Let me explain. Sore Hands basically said, you know, he's not so worried about production. Totally makes sense to me why he would say that. Some people don't really care about these things like I do. Where we come from the same fabric, me and Sore Hands, is really that I too am from a classical background. Many people on the channel don't know this, but I actually started as my first instrument on the flute. I was one of the only male flautists in nearly every orchestra I played in, and you know, frankly, I didn't really talk about the instrument that much because that wasn't really the cool thing to play. So I started out playing the flute, and then I started playing the piano. And actually the very last instrument that I picked up was the electric guitar. But of course I got my classical background from flute and piano over the years, and I continued playing the flute for about 12 years before I finally, I guess, gave it up. Now I didn't really give it up in a, purposeful setting where I was like, I'm done playing this thing, but basically guitar playing and piano just took over for me, and I kind of just stopped playing. And then I eventually sold my flute maybe 6 years ago or so. And to be honest, I kind of wish I wouldn't have done that. And I wish I would have kept up with it over all the years, because I could have been playing in professional orchestras right now on that instrument. But truthfully, it probably wouldn't have happened because guitar was just literally my whole life. So I started playing the flute from the age of 7. Piano and guitar were 8 years old. I have the similar classical background as Sore Hands, which is kind of why when I make these videos, a lot of my intentions come from the classical background. The only difference is I don't really play classical guitar, definitely not on the level that he does. I am a pick player. You know, my biggest thing has always been, transposing the classical music into electric guitar, like Yngwie Malmsteen, Jason Becker, obviously. Those are my inspirations, right? It's kind of an interesting contrast that we would both have similar channels in that aspect. To kind of talk about a few things with the Ichikanito and Marcin beef, just to milk it one last time. He doesn't care about the production stuff, but let me tell you why I care. I guess in this music industry, I'm somewhat of a jack of all trades, I do the engineering thing, I do the multi-instrumental thing, the teaching thing, the touring thing. I've kind of dabbled my hands, of course, by engineering, of course, I mean the recording thing as well. And I've kind of dabbled my hands in every aspect of the industry, which is, in a sense, maybe given me a little bit of insider knowledge on some of these subjects, especially when it comes to production. Now, I know I mentioned this in a couple of the last videos, but if you don't actually do production yourself, like if you don't know what really goes into that, you're not an engineer, it is kind of easy to write all that stuff off and be like, oh, it's cool, man, it's just production. But if we're being totally honest here, a lot of production moves are completely fake, and it is very easy to fake one's playing and make it look real later on by the production moves, like I mentioned, such as quantizing guitars, taking MIDI tracks and essentially either miming yourself over them or learning, how to play them, but then cutting up and quantizing the actual audio tracks of the grid, still making them sound robotic. All these things go into, the quote, fake playing that we talk about on the channel here. And I think maybe that would be probably the only aspect that me and Sorehands disagree on. He basically says he only cares about, actual notes live. For me, I kind of care about the whole package, If you didn't play it in the studio, don't pretend like you can play it live, And I get doing overdubs and stuff like that. A lot of people come at me and say, oh man, if you're against overdubs, I don't know how you get around. Like, I'm not really against overdubs. Really what I'm against is not actually being able to play something in one take, yet recording it as if it is one take and then miming it in a video and then also pretending to play it live, right? Those are the things that I'm like, hey, this is just disingenuous at this point. And I think that's the only things we disagree on. Now, Sorehands kind of backed off a little bit and said, hey, they're not really fake. I just said one thing about the notes they played. And, to his credit, that's fair enough, if he feels that way about it. I personally don't feel that way about it. I actually felt like him kind of mentioning these things was opening a door to a lot more things that should be talked about in the guitar community, which a lot of players are just doing this fake type of production, hence fake playing. Now, a lot of you, I've also mentioned that you want me to talk about Buried Alive. And I mean, to be honest, he's like the fakest of all the fakes, you know what I mean? Like, there's almost like not more to say about that. Like, you just go watch his videos. It's like everything I've said in my videos about Marcin and Ichika, his are literally to the nth degree possible. But I also feel like he hasn't alluded to playing it in real life. I've showed a couple of his interview clips where he's basically said, he doesn't really say I don't play it, but he kind of alludes to like the fact that he doesn't actually play this stuff live. So for me, I can't really give him like the full call out because I don't feel like he's even trying to hide that fact. But yeah, I mean, he's fake, The barrier to entry in the production side of things these days is actually too low, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me saying that. Like, people are like, oh, but it's so great, everyone can make music. And it's like, yeah, but a lot of people aren't making music. They're making slop, or they're making fake stuff and they're pushing product, There's a big difference between pushing product and actually making art. I feel like 90% of the stuff on the internet is product, 10% of it is art when it comes to music. And I think that's a lot of what we're experiencing here. Like, let's be honest, with this Marcin Ichika material, is anyone really going to listen to this stuff on replay? Is it even going to be relevant 5 years from now? Even 1 year from now? Even a couple months from now? I don't think so. And maybe that's a personal thought and maybe an old school thought, as some people would like to think about my opinions on the channel, but I don't know. To me, I just feel like this is not really relevant music. It's really no different than the pop stars that drop a single every couple of months to stay relevant. To me, it's just kind of it's almost like AI slop. It's just real people doing it right now. And who knows, I'm sure at some point all these artists will figure out a way to incorporate AI into their playing. I have a hard time even calling a lot of these guys artists, but I'm using that word as a formality, obviously, in this video. But nonetheless, I think me and Sorehands agree on a lot of stuff, and I really do appreciate the shout out from him. And obviously, to his credit, he has definitely opened a door, I think, in the guitar community for this stuff to be talked about. And I think, we shouldn't be afraid to address these things, obviously. And, many thanks to Sorehands. With all this being said, guys, unlike Sorehands, who I think, from what I've seen in his videos, is not taking students right now, I am taking a couple new students. I have a couple slots open at the time of this filming. And speaking of classical guitar, I'm going to play you my rendition of some classical right now. So with that being said, please like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment on Sorehands and my channel if you want to try to see a collab in the future. And thank you very much for all the support and 6,000 subscribers. And I will see you on the next one.